Vikings fans, welcome back to another episode of the Skol Hive. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. Skol.
Skol.
Oh, that was good.
That was very nice.
Very nice. All right, Ev, you have graced us with the beer this week.
I did.
What'd you bring us?
Well, I was perusing the local grocery store shelves. We can
say it. We can say our Devil's Glen Hy-Vee.
Glen Hy-Vee.
They're basically friends of the show at this point.
They are. Yeah. It's a good spot, and they've got a good selection of beer.
I love them, and they're starting to know our first names. So.
Yep. It's nice. Anyways, I came across a brewery that we haven't featured yet on the show. I didn't even know this existed until I came across their beer. Mm-hmm. We're drinking Reclaimed Rails out of Bondurant, Iowa. It's near Des Moines. And we're drinking their Blood Orange Wheat today. Yeah. So Reclaimed Rails Blood Orange Wheat. And so far, I'm liking it.
Yeah. I like the can art. It's simple. It's got a nice blood orange on there. You should check it out if you haven't seen the art before. But obviously, the beer is really good. I'm kind of surprised that I like it, just because it is that blood orange, that grapefruit type beer. First thing I thought was it's almost like a sour type beer, and sours are not my go-to. It's refreshing. I think you mentioned it's a good springtime, good to go, all-weather type beer. And we're normally like a heavy hop or a nice dark amber type beer drinker. So this is a good change of pace. It's refreshing, but it's not like too sour. So it's still not something I'm saying it should be called a sour or anything. It's a wheat beer. I like it. It's
springtime. I mean, we're 48 hours away from the first round of the NFL draft.
Yeah, we are.
And that means it's April, the end of April. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I was looking for something springy, something a little more fruity, citrusy, something bright. And this is it. And it's good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah. I really like blood orange. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
I think I just I'm learning more and more about myself. I need to realize that I like most beers. I have my favorites, but if I was at our favorite Hy-Vee and I saw this before I tried it tonight, I probably would have skipped over it. I wouldn't have immediately grabbed it, but now it's definitely one I'll grab from time to time.
And to be fair, I think I have skipped over this beer before. I've looked at it and I'm like, maybe not today. But today I was like, you know what? We're going to try it. Yeah. So here we are. And it's pretty darn good so far. Yeah, I'm liking it. So
I'm excited to see what I think after two of them, towards the end of the episode.
We should Skol again.
Skol.
We're getting better at that.
Yeah, we are.
All right. Well, should we pay the bills quick?
Yeah. So it's been a while. We kind of stopped reading the early episode ad reads for our friends at Big Top Ventures, but we're going to throw it back in there because we like them a lot. They haven't gone anywhere. They've only ever supported us fully. So in that sense, here we go. Shout out to Big Top Ventures for sponsoring today's episode. They can definitely get you the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts in Mexico and Jamaica. Actually, my neighbor and friend is in Jamaica right now.
I think I saw that on Facebook, actually. Yeah. That'd be fun.
Through Big Top Ventures. Big Top Ventures, step right up to your next big adventure. To reach out to them to get the best prices, go ahead and send them an email at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. And we will probably superimpose that onto the screen if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. And maybe you can get a really good surprising price to go to a Mexican or Jamaican all-inclusive.
Sounds nice this time of year.
Yeah. I'm actually going in June, so like a couple of months. I think we're under 60 days from the day that we leave. And
Mexico, right?
Mexico this time, yeah.
There you go.
I cannot wait. It'll be my third time going with Big Top Ventures, and it's a blast. You might not tell from looking at me. I like to just sit around and have nice drinks and good food. And yeah, it's the best.
One of these days.
You need to do it, man. You need to do it. And you have an in. So.
I do. Well, keep that in mind for sure. If you're looking for a nice vacation, I think they can hook you up.
Yeah. So my friend who's in Jamaica, I think he's going to, I don't know if he'll be back before the draft or if he's going to have to watch the draft in a tropical setting.
Must be rough.
But we should probably talk about the draft.
We
It's
should.
coming up.
It's literally 48 hours away from right now. I think 48 hours from now, we will know the fate of the Vikings. I mean, the first round will nearly be over at this point.
That's true.
It's nearly 9 o'clock as we sit here and record this episode on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think by 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time on Thursday, the night of the first round of the drafts, the Vikings picks will be done and over with. Whether they trade up or they sit and wait at 11.
Yeah. A lot of the fate of the franchise, because this is a pivotal draft. Every draft is pivotal, but this is a big one because obviously there's no qualms about it. They're looking at making a move at the most important position in football, and this could alter it in a great way or in a terrible way. So we'll see. I'm excited.
And we've been talking about this for months. I mean, pretty much since free agency started, and Kirk left, took the job in Atlanta. We've been talking about
Totally
the
no
draft.
tampering whatsoever. Totally on board and everything like that.
That could be a little offshoot of this conversation down the road. But let me ask you this question first. I saw a tweet today while I was kind of perusing and kind of getting ready for recording tonight that said that there are a handful of GMs across the league that will be on the hot seat if they don't draft well this year. And Kwesi, for this particular individual who tweeted, was at the top of that list.
Yeah.
Do you think his seat is hot, warm, cold, neutral? Where do you think he sits now, and where do you think he sits on draft night? And if he gets it right, if he gets it wrong, does that change anything?
Yeah, so I think he seems like low-hanging fruit to the mass media and everything like that, because it's a team that just let a pretty good quarterback walk in free agency. And we've said it a million times. We're not in those meetings. We're not in the building. We don't know what the owners and coaches and GM all talk about all the time. So for all we know, the owners were like, yeah, we don't want Kirk anymore. For all we know, they were like, do everything you can to get him. So I'm not sure. But that could be a reason to think he's either already in trouble or they're still just going according to plan. But I think it's a little early to say Kwesi is right now on the hot seat. Sure, if we're a year from now and the quarterback position's a mess outside of injury and the team doesn't look good, because I think if you and I were both honest, a year from now, we'll be talking about a 2024 Vikings that had at most maybe 7 to 9 wins. I mean, we're not looking at a team that's really ramping up to make a deep playoff run, probably. Anything can happen. I'm here for rooting for everything. I want them to win every game. But to be realistic, like, they're in a transition time. And when you have a young quarterback or perhaps even a rookie quarterback taking the helm, there's going to be some growing pains. So I think that mindset, knowing that it's going to be a rookie quarterback, or Sam Darnold, which that's my advocacy, is that Sam Darnold starts most of the season. But Kwesi's going to get a little leeway unless whoever is playing quarterback looks awful outside of injury, looks lost, or if, let's say, they get a guy at, they trade up to 3 or 5 or wherever, and they get a guy, and then somebody takes, a Bo Nix or Michael Penix later in the first round or even second round, and one of those two looks light years ahead of whoever the Vikings pick. That would look pretty bad on the GM and the coach, really. So,
but isn't that kind of the story of the NFL? I mean, doesn't that typically happen?
Yeah.
Like, you have to wonder if Kwesi has considered all of these things, and if I'm sure he's done his homework. I'm sure he's done his research. I'm sure he has obsessed over. Is he married? I don't even know.
Married, I think, with a very young child, like not less than a year-old child.
Well, I'd venture to guess that his wife and his young child have seen very little of him.
Probably.
Or he's been working from home and he's just been like stressed to the gourd about what's coming up, because I think he does know that this will reflect on him in a lot of ways. I agree with you. I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people are making it out to be. I don't know that he's going to be on the hottest seat in terms of GMs after the draft if we get into the season and the draft pick is a bust, or we move up to 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, they pick the guy and somebody below him performs better. Like, I don't know that Kwesi will be out of a job like that because of all of that. But you have to think that he is analyzing every nook and cranny of this position. And I mean, you've got to take into consideration guys of the past that have become Hall of Famers or will be Hall of Famers. Tom Brady drafted, what round was he drafted in? Way
famously
late.
In the 6th round. Yeah, he's the way outsider. But like Kirk Cousins himself, he was a 4th rounder. Russell Wilson, I think he was a 3rd rounder. Brock Purdy, the most recent example, he was
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, so you can find those diamonds in the rough, which is what I think you're saying.
But I think what I'm getting at is the diamonds in the rough are more common than I think maybe we realize. And maybe we, the general public, and maybe the media have hyped up this draft class of quarterbacks that are likely to go in the first round above and beyond where they deserve to be pumped up. I mean, we talked with Dustin last week on our episode. Dustin Baker was a guest of ours. We talked about how, you know, when we first started about J.J. McCarthy, we were thinking, oh, yeah, he's low first round.
Yeah, like, maybe he'll squeak in the first round.
Maybe. And now all of a sudden he's in the top 5. And
yeah, the Vikings might not be able to afford the draft capital to get to draft him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting how all of that ebbs and flows throughout kind of the free agency and pre-draft season. And it's interesting how all of these narratives start to form beforehand, and then we forget completely about them when play happens and they start actually playing football in September and October and November, and then all of a sudden all those narratives that were written months before are washed away by what happens on the field. So,
and I kind of go back to it too a little bit. The media doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. Nobody really knows. Yeah, sure. Could we say absolutely Caleb Williams, he's going to be the first pick? You could bet $1 billion on that. That's probably going to happen. But like I looked it up today. Mel Kiper of ESPN, his final mock draft, probably like this time last year, had Will Levis going like 4th or 5th overall. And Will Levis dropped famously to the 2nd round. And Will Levis may still end up being good. He's, I think, the presumed starter for the Titans right now. But like, even these experts don't know what's going to happen. We're not in on those phone calls. We see the Austin Fort, like, really cool wheeling and dealing draft trade video that the Cardinals put out. I forget even what that was from. Was that like an Amazon Prime thing?
I don't know.
Of just like, hey, there's 15 different plates spinning around and trying to get the best deal. We don't know exactly what's happening or what has already happened. For all we know, some of these trade agreements are already in place. So we'll see. I will say, just to fully go back and answer your question, I think at this moment, Kwesi's seat is as hot or cold as any GM in the league. Everybody's fighting for their job every minute of the year. Like, anybody could go for Bill Belichick. He doesn't have an NFL coaching job right now. Like, anybody can go from having a secure job to, oh wow, they're gone. Like, it's crazy how that can work. But I think Kwesi at the moment is as safe as normal.
I tell you what, on Twitter the night of the draft, the account that I will be following most closely is NFC North News.
Oh, don't do that. Don't even say that name. People do not follow that account. That's a meme account. I think Dustin Baker called it the Onion of Vikings Twitter.
It is total parody. It is total BS. It is not real. No. You should not follow it, but I will be maybe keeping an eye on it just for the laughs on draft night.
There will be some laughs. I will say, the more I think about the Vikings quarterback situation, I think Kwesi will ultimately be praised for the signing of Sam Darnold. I'm not saying Sam Darnold's going to be a Pro Bowler. He's going to lead the Vikings to a Super Bowl this year. I'm saying he should be looked at more highly than even Case Keenum was looked at when he signed with the Vikings prior to the 2017 season. Sam Darnold will make whoever is picked at quarterback, he'll make their job a lot easier, and will probably make it so it almost doesn't matter who's picked, if it's Drake May or J.J. McCarthy, or worst case scenario, a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix. Like, that rookie quarterback, hopefully, will be sitting and watching for most of his rookie year. And that's what I'm hoping for and almost predicting. So I think we'll all be okay.
So is that your kind of final prediction, that it really doesn't matter who's drafted, even a doomsday scenario, Vikings stay at 11 or even fall and take a Penix or a Bo Nix?
Yeah.
You're not too concerned about it because Darnold will be the guy. Whoever is drafted will sit behind him and will follow a Packers model of let them sit, let them learn, start them when they're ready.
Absolutely. So I think the best case scenario, is they sign Darnold. He is QB1 right now. And I think as of Friday morning, he will still be QB1. And I don't think it's going to be one of those ceremonial, like, oh, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, he was picked first overall, but yeah, he's still right now QB3 on our depth chart heading into training camp. Like that, Trevor Lawrence was always going to be the Jaguars' first quarterback. But I think Darnold, he's got to be the starter. And I really think the Vikings are going to go into the season, week 1, I'll bet any amount of money you want, Darnold is going to be the starter. However, there is always that caveat of, when you think of the scenario I talked about a few weeks ago, the Russell Wilson rookie year scenario. The Seahawks had signed Matt Flynn to be their starter. Now, granted, they signed him to be their starter. He had a pretty big starting deal. And then they took this rookie quarterback in the 3rd round. But you know what? In training camp, Russell Wilson, that rookie quarterback, 3rd rounder, he won the job. So if they draft a J.J. McCarthy or a Drake May or whoever, and they go into training camp, Darnold, rookie, as far as depth chart, if that rookie legitimately wins the job and not just like, oh, we have to start him because he's our highly touted first round rookie that we paid a lot for, if he wins the job, then the best guy should be playing. But I really think Darnold has every chance to be as good as he's ever been in the NFL with the Vikings.
And that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm a track coach, and so, I spend a lot of time with a stopwatch in my hand, and with our athletes, we tell them the watch doesn't lie. You run a 60-second 400 meters. This is girls' track. But a 60-second 400 meters is better than a 68.
Yeah.
And the 60 will find themselves in a 4x4 relay going to state, or they will find themselves in the open 4 trying to win us points at the conference meet. And the 68 won't. And we tell the kids all the time, if that's what you want, if you want to be a contributing factor, then you've got to win your spot. And so I agree with that a lot. And I think, I don't think the NFL operates much differently than that. I don't think there's a lot of politics. I don't think there's a lot of favoritism.
Maybe every once in a while, but when people's jobs are on the line, when you talk about hot seats,
it's performance-based. Yeah, for sure.
And we've seen KOC make tough decisions in the moment. He benched every quarterback on the roster was either season-ending injury or benched at one point.
Yep.
Because of performance. So
Dobbs benched, Hall hurt, Mullins benched,
Hall benched. Yeah, we have that TikTok about Michael Scott talking about getting multiple vasectomy. Yeah. So we've seen KOC at least make the tough call, the right tough call in the moment. And I think regardless of who they pick first over or in the first round, KOC is not going to have any qualms about saying, hey, my best quarterback at the moment is Darnold or the rookie. I have faith in that.
So I'm going to make my prediction on trade partners because we've talked ad nauseum about this. And I think there are a few logical trade partners. to get into the top 5. I mean, we've been talking about the Patriots, the Cardinals, and the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 could be suitors. I think everybody's pretty confident that the Bears will stay where they're at.
Oh, yeah.
And then Washington will probably stay where they are, too, at 1 and 2.
Definitely seems like it, yeah.
And so, given that, and given those next 3 teams, the Patriots at 3, the Cardinals at 4, and the Chargers at 5, my prediction is the Patriots are the most agreeable and logical trade partner for the Vikings. I think the Patriots are going through some changes, obviously, with different head coach and GM, with Bill Belichick leaving. I think they'll appreciate the draft capital that the Vikings have to offer.
Yeah.
It may cost a little more than this year's 2 first-rounders at 11 and 23, and they may have to lump in something in the future. Hopefully not another first-rounder next year. That would be less than ideal. But I could see that being not necessarily a Hail Mary, but a heave, a last-second heave by Kwesi to kind of get the deal done and get the guy that they want. But I think it's going to be the Patriots. I think the Vikings will get up to 3, and they'll get their guy.
All right.
They're going to get who they want. So
yeah, I think the Patriots, I agree with you. They're looking to reload and build their roster as much as possible rather than just focus on one position. And they're going to try, just like any business deal whatsoever, they're going to try to get the best value humanly possible, to the point that they're going to tell the Vikings, like, hey, this pick is available. It's going to cost a lot. And if you're not willing to pay for it, we'll just go ahead and pick JJ or Drake May or whoever's available right then. And they're going to try to convince the Vikings that that the Patriots really do want to pick that quarterback, which it wouldn't be a bad move for them to pick a highly touted rookie quarterback. But it also, they need more than that. I don't think they want to do that right now. They're going to try to build their roster and then insert the good QB either through development this year or in the next few drafts. So, yeah, the Patriots are going to try to get next year's first and maybe even 2026 first. Like, I don't think that's what they want to do. And I think the Vikings ultimately know that. So I really think the Vikings, I don't think they're going to be able to talk the Cardinals out of number 4. Cardinals with one of the best wide receiver prospects in recent memory. They're going to do everything they can to get Kyler Murray as many good weapons before they really have to make a decision on, do we keep Kyler Murray long term? So they're looking at that wide receiver.
I feel like I've already seen Marvin Harrison Jr. in a Cardinals jersey in my dreams. Like, I feel like it's just already manifested itself. Like, it's just going to happen almost as much as Caleb Williams in a Bears jersey. Like, it just seems like that's where things are headed.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to go.
So the Vikings are they're gonna try for the Patriots number 3, and I really hope they have the confidence and the balls really to eventually at some point tell the Patriots, okay, go pound sand. Like, we don't need to overpay when you don't even really want to pick the guy that you're saying you're going to pick. So it's either going to be the Patriots, and if that doesn't work, then the Vikings have a couple options. I would even say the Giants are an option to trade with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, maybe they're competing for a quarterback, but with their financial situation, their obligation to Daniel Jones, I don't think the Giants are picking a quarterback this year anyways. They're, again, kind of like the Cardinals, going to try their best to make their current quarterback work and load him up with as many weapons. So the Giants might be a sneaky trade partner with the Vikings, and obviously the Chargers might be the most realistic.
I feel like the Giants are what the Vikings don't want to become in like 2 or 3 years.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't think Daniel Jones, outside of 2 games against the Vikings in 2022, he didn't look like a $45 million a year quarterback, like, ever. And the Giants really just double, triple, quadruple down on that guy.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, they have a good easy out from his contract after the 24 season. So they could be looking to draft a quarterback next year, but I think they're kind of stuck. Like, and I think that bodes well for the Vikings. I don't think it's as dire for the Vikings situation as the media wants everyone to believe, as the Patriots would want the Vikings to believe. I think things are sitting pretty good right now for the Vikings.
So coming back to pick number 4, the Cardinals have pick number 4, and I think it's basically a foregone conclusion that Marvin Harrison Jr. is headed to Arizona. He might as well already have his jersey in red and white and get that name on the back. And Harrison Jr. is going to take up a little more space than your typical name, but
probably
they'll make it work. So you've put together a list of some different prop bets in the draft, and one of them is the first non-QB selected.
Yeah.
So
let me interject just really quick.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Forrest, I am talking to you right now. These bets that we're going to talk about are what you and I have talked about betting against each other this coming Thursday. Please skip forward until Evan and I are done talking about these, because I'm going to actually say what I think is going to happen. So you could totally fleece me in our friendly wager that we're going to have in a couple of days. So
full transparency here.
Yes. So I have confidence Forrest is listening. He'll probably text me when he hears me say this right now. So yes. Anyways, just to completely derail that, let's get back to it.
So first non-QB selected. You think Marvin Harrison?
Yeah, I think we both think it is. But I think if it's not him, it's going to be either Malik Neighbors.
Yep.
Neighbors,
yeah.
Or who is the highest touted defensive player? Is that Byron
Murphy Jr.?
Is that who is the highest touted defensive player? So of those 3 guys, Harrison Jr., Neighbors, and Murphy, or whoever ends up being the most highly touted defensive player, I think it is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. I think, like you said, you can write it in permanent marker, tattoo it that it is going to be him to the Cardinals at 4.
Right now, I'm on ESPN. Right now, ESPN has Marvin Harrison Jr. at the second best available overall.
Yeah.
So it's Caleb Williams number 1, and then it's Marvin Harrison, and Malik Neighbors is 3rd.
Yeah, that makes sense. And those best player available, best player overall, that's going to differ because obviously the quarterback position is so highly touted that the second best quarterback may end up being something like the 5th or 10th best player overall. However it works out, you probably have it right there. But because of the position, the value is there to be drafted higher than anyone else.
And that's what makes the draft so interesting and so fun. So, all right. Did you have a number on Marvin Harrison? I know you were looking at DraftKings
like
earlier.
his average draft.
Like, do they have an over-under on where he'll be
I
drafted?
can probably look that up here.
I know
really
the
quick.
category is the first non-QB selected, but if we're pretty confident it's him, what's the betting public saying right now? Where do they think he's going to go?
Man, I'm not seeing it right here. I'm looking at the DraftKings odds here because they have a lot of prop bets for the draft, and I don't see him listed as one of the ones that have an over-under draft position. They've got a lot of guys.
That's interesting. I feel like he'd be in there.
Yeah, but maybe it's just so dead set that it's going to be 4th that it's not even worth, because like Caleb Williams isn't listed here either.
Sure.
Yeah, they only have a few guys in the top 10. After that, a lot of guys in the 20s and 30s.
Well, I'll stand pat with what I've said. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion. Caleb Williams to the Bears, Jaden Daniels to the Commanders. I think the Vikings trade up to number 3 with the Patriots. They take Drake May, who's the guy they want. And then at 4, the Cardinals take Marvin Harrison Jr. Yep. That's my prediction for the first 4 picks.
Could absolutely happen, and I would have a hard time disagreeing with that, unless the only thing there for me is if the Vikings just aren't willing to pay what the Patriots demand, and the Patriots legitimately have the balls to draft whoever they say. Because I got to think the Patriots their plan A is to trade back with the Vikings. Like that's got to be their plan A, and they've got to be comfortable with going to their plan B if the Vikings play ball or don't play ball and give them everything they're asking for.
Yeah, for sure. All right, some other bets that you've got listed here. Total trades in the first round.
Yeah, what do you think? There could be a ton.
Well, I think the Vikings are one.
For sure.
I think there's no way that the Vikings sit at 11 and wait for their fate. I think they take 11 and 23, package those together, maybe with some other picks from future years. We've already talked about that. And they try to get into the top 5 in whatever way they can. And if the Patriots want to play ball, we play ball. If the Cardinals want to do it, if the Chargers want to do it, great. We figure out a way to get into the top 5, and we hope that Drake or JJ McCarthy is available. We take them, and that's it. So I think the Vikings are for sure a trade partner. Honestly, I don't know how many other trades there will be in the first round. So I'm going to take the under on this.
Yeah,
You've got it at 6.5.
Yeah, so DraftKings, as of right now, their over-under on first-round trades is 6.5. So you're saying it'll be less than 7 trades, right?
I think it's the under, and I think it's quite a ways.
Yeah, 7
under.
could be a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know. I can't remember a draft that's had that many trades in the first round.
Yeah. Well, think about it. I mean, there's 31 picks, 7 trades. That's almost a fourth of the picks.
Yeah.
And if you're assuming the Vikings are going to make a trade, that includes 3 of the first round picks. It would be, the Patriots pick to the Vikings, and then the Vikings 2 first round picks to the Patriots. So that's, 3 of the 32. That's a 10th of the first round picks involved in one trade right there. So you might be onto something. Just for the sweat, I'll say it'll be exactly 7. Okay. I think the defensive players in the high teens all the way through in the back half of the first round, I think people are going to fight for a coveted defensive player because those guys are going to fall because of the value of the quarterbacks up top. So, I'll just for the sake of argument, I agree with you. I think it'll be the under, but I'm going to say my official prediction is the over at 7 picks.
Well, and I'm just looking at it right now. Already there have been 1, 2, 3.
Sure, and I don't know that
counted?
Those. I might be wrong. I would assume that those don't count because it's draft day trades.
Okay,
is the way the DraftKings
on Thursday trades that happen, and
I think that would also include like
today, tomorrow,
or even I don't even know if today and tomorrow. It might. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. My assumption is it would have to be during the draft.
I'm still gonna stick with the under.
Yeah,
I know you're sticking right at 7. But like if you look at after 5, we've talked ad nauseum about the top 5. I think we're pretty confident the Bears are gonna stick at 1. Because why wouldn't you? You get whoever you want.
And they have the 9th pick, too. So, honestly, they could trade down from that 9th pick and get more first-round picks. That'd be crazy.
Right.
But
Washington's probably going to stay where they are because they're kind of a quarterback-needy team.
Yeah.
The Patriots have a lot of flexibility. They could gain some draft capital by trading with the Vikings. The Cardinals likely stay put. The Chargers likely stay put.
Unless if the Patriots don't move, then I think the Vikings will trade with the Chargers.
I agree. I think they're the second most likely trade partner. But after that, it's the Giants, who you mentioned could be a sneaky trade partner with the Vikings.
Yeah, I think there could be something
there.
But
they're still picking 6th. I mean, you keep Daniel Jones, you roll with him, and you get a guy that you get some protection up front for him. You get somebody on defense that can help turn the ball over and get the ball back into the offense's hands. You get an offensive weapon to hand the ball off to or to throw the ball to. I mean, you got to like the Giants at 6. And if you're the Giants, you got to feel good about picking 6th. And maybe even leveraging that 6th pick to get higher. The Titans are picking 7th. The Falcons picking 8. The Falcons, I think, have to feel pretty good about picking 8 as long as that doesn't get messed up with any of the tampering stuff.
Yeah.
and potentially
that won't, by the way. The NFL, or even Adam Schefter, tweeted earlier today saying like, "Hey, yeah, the NFL is still working on it. They will not have a decision on the tampering punishment, any tampering punishment, until after this week."
I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was just this afternoon. So,
anyways, I think in the top 10, it seems to me like everybody in there is either pretty good or has good leverage to move out. And I don't know. I feel like 5, maybe.
Sure.
Maybe 4. I don't see a whole lot of other trades happening. I feel like the teams that are in the top 10 are comfortable. If you're not in the top 10, you kind of just, what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
You kind of know who the top 10-ish best overall players are, and you probably know, like if you're at the Chiefs sitting at 32, you're like, all right, we know who's probably going to be available when it's our turn to pick.
Yeah, that 32nd pick is always sneaky too.
It is.
Like
It is.
That's a valuable first round pick, just in the sense that it's more easily attainable, and it gives you the option for a 5th year option for whoever you pick. So there could be somebody who covets Bo Nix or Michael Penix or anybody, and is like, hey, we get the chance to get him with a 5th year option. We're going to make a call to Kansas City. And Kansas City, I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking like, hey, what holes do they have in their team that needs to be filled by a first rounder? Like, I think that could be, we should almost bet on, hey, will that pick be traded? But that's a sneaky pick every year to be traded.
I'm still going to take the under. I think
okay,
6 or less. I'm thinking more 4 or 5.
Yeah. And like I said, I tend to agree with that mindset. However, just for the argument, I'll go the other way. Some
other bets you've got here. Total Big Ten players.
Yeah. So we're Iowa boys. I'm an Iowa Hawkeyes fan. You're not really affiliated.
A fringe fan.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, we're definitely in Big Ten country. So that's why it's on here. What do you think?
Well, so again, this is first round only, and you've got the DraftKings numbers in here. You've got DraftKings at 5.5. Is this current Big Ten teams, or is this future expansion Big Ten teams?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I also would assume that it is just players who are current Big Ten players. So theoretically, like if there was somebody who transferred out of a Big Ten team and is getting drafted now, they're not going to be included in that. So it's just players leaving a Big Ten school at the moment.
So currently on ESPN, in the best available top 25, there are 6 Big Ten players, and
that probably means that's a sneaky good number. 5.5 is the over/under on DraftKings.
And of course, we never know what order. I mean, this has Caleb Williams number 2, Caleb Williams number 1, Marvin Harrison number 2. That doesn't mean they're going to go 1, 2. It's correct. Dependent on team.
I will say,
fit.
My assumption is that this bet includes like current as of 2023 Big Ten schools. So it's not including USC's Caleb Williams as a Big Ten player.
Right. I'm still not future expansion teams counted. Current Big Ten teams, I'm counting 5. Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. We've got J.J. McCarthy from Michigan sitting at 9th best overall. We've got Penn State, I'm not even going to pronounce his name right, offensive tackle Olumuyiwa Fashanu.
Oh, man.
Another Penn State edge rusher, Chop Robinson.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Illinois' defensive tackle, Jershawn Newton. He's been a big name in draft conversations. And then Iowa boy, cornerback from Iowa, Cooper DeJean. Those are the 6 in the top 25.
Okay.
So I would maybe tend to take the under on that, knowing that not all of those players will be drafted at that particular position.
Sure.
In terms of draft stock, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And I don't know. I don't know. Even though the Big Ten won the national championship, technically with Michigan winning it, I don't know that. I don't know that the Big Ten has enough talent to break that 5.5 number.
I think. I mean, I even before hearing your guess and your reasoning, I would still have said I'm going to take the over. I think 5.5. I think that national championship is going to make more players pop out in tape. One of the questions I asked Dustin Baker last week was, occasionally college teammates get drafted together to the same NFL team. Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be people who have been scouting J.J. McCarthy, and they're going to find somebody else on the Wolverines team that they're like, he's really good, and the media hasn't caught on, but maybe enough teams have caught on that, they're going to fight over this offensive lineman or whoever. I don't know their team well enough, but I think that could sneaky make some more inflated numbers in the first round for the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's
so. I'm just going to say the over. I don't feel comfortable enough saying a certain number, like there's going to be 7 or 10 or however many. I just say it's going to be the over 5.5.
Yeah, I'm still taking the under. I don't know. I think other conferences are stronger. I'm not the biggest college football fan, but I'm going to go with the under on that as well. I think especially the SEC is stronger. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's some good Big 12 schools in there as well. Texas has some good players out there. Missouri has some good players out there. Mm-hmm. And there's some good ACC schools too. Obviously, UNC has some good stuff. The Pac-12. The Pac-12 really put itself out there this year.
Yeah.
Kind of its last year of prominence. But there's some good players from out west, Washington in particular. So I don't know. I like the prominence of the other conferences. I think I'll take the under on that. Sure. Another bet that you've got here, total wide receivers in the first round, which no one's really talking about because we've really only talked about the quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I, we talked about 2 of the wide receivers already. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe arguably the best player in the whole draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., and then Malik Neighbors, who I've heard on Twitter, like some teams think Neighbors is better than Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, I don't have an opinion on that, but those 2 guys are definitely top 10.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are the top 2.
For sure.
I think Harrison Jr. and Neighbors are the top 2 receivers. You've got Brian Thomas Jr., who's up there from LSU, mm-hmm. teammate of Malik Neighbors. Some good guys from Texas, Georgia, South Carolina. I don't know. There are some good wide receivers in this draft, and they've had good quarterbacks throwing to them.
Yeah, which isn't surprising in this draft.
Right.
So DraftKings has the over under on total wide receivers in the first round at 6.5. So yeah, I feel like that's a good number. I'm just going to go ahead and guess. I'll go first this time. I'm going to take the under on this. I think that the quarterbacks and the 2 top wide receivers have taken up so much attention and so much media attention, which bleeds into the betting odds and everything, that a lot of these defensive players and even offensive linemen have gone a little under the radar, at least in terms of the media and the casual, Monday morning quarterbacks like us. The teams know who the good players are. They know who they're comfortable with. They have their draft boards. I think it's going to be under on wide receivers. I think there's going to be more defensive players than we think.
I agree with that. I'm going to take the under on wide receivers as well.
Okay.
I think obviously the draft class of quarterbacks is huge.
Yeah.
And I think for better or for worse, I think teams will play into the media hype surrounding these quarterbacks. And there might be a team or 2 or even 3 that fall victim to the hype behind a particular quarterback and draft them just because that's what the hype was all about.
Yeah.
And then there'll be the New York Giants struggling to really justify keeping this guy around, you know, and paying him 40 or 45 or whatever, you know, after he's around for a little bit. So I think all of that to say, there are a lot of quarterbacks in the draft. I think some teams that are really desperate, hopefully it's not the Vikings, will pick up a quarterback, Penix, Bo Nix, and there's a handful of others that are, I know Spencer Rattler's been a name that's been out there. He's, I mean, even kind of a sneaky pick for the Vikings, so to speak. I sure hope not. I watched the high school documentary of his when he was a high school quarterback, and I just remember shaking my head the whole time. Like, man, that kid. I just hope he doesn't end up wearing purple.
I'll tell you what, whoever the Vikings pick, it'll be telling on if the PR team or the media relations team release that like sneaky cool draft room video of like the team, KOC and Kwesi, realizing like, oh, hey, this quarterback's available. We're getting him. I'm really interested to see their reactions. And if they're like, whoa, and yes, and high-fiving, and hey, JJ, or hey, whoever, we can't wait to have you here. We're so excited. And like people, you know, setting off streamers in there. Or if it's like, oh, hey, Bo Nix, we can't wait to have you on the team. Like, I think that'll be telling, and what'll be most telling is if they don't release one of those videos, you know?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
But to derail it a little bit more, what do we say? Total wide receivers. Or no, that's not where we were at. Where were we at? We
were on wide receivers,
okay,
even though I kind of shifted it back to quarterbacks.
Yeah. My
point was it's a saturated market of quarterbacks. I think even non-super quarterback needy teams may fall victim to some of these other quarterbacks, just because it is so good and it's been so hyped up for so long now. I think that will diminish the wide receiver market. I think when one position increases, the other one decreases. I think I'll take the under on total wide receivers at 6.5. I'll take 6 or less for sure.
Well, and quarterbacks again, if there's as many as potentially 7 or so first round quarterbacks this year, I mean, just the odds alone, you got to think maybe 3 of them are going to be good.
Yeah.
And who knows which 3. Somebody is getting screwed. Some franchises are going to be set back a little bit, and hopefully it's not the Vikings, like you said. So
the Vikings have been really back and forth in the media between Drake May and JJ McCarthy. We've already kind of established, or at least I've established my thoughts on where the Vikings end up. I think they end up at 3 when it's all said and done. One of the betting odds here is JJ McCarthy's draft position, and DraftKings has him at 5.5.
Over under at 5.5.
Where do you got him?
I mean, man, unless all of this is with the caveat of if the media actually has an idea of what they're talking about, and this isn't like a Mel Kiper, Will Levis situation from last year. Because honestly, we could be looking at a first round. I don't predict it, but theoretically, like JJ McCarthy might not go in the first round. Like, it would be a surprise to the media and everybody else, but like, holy cow, I can't believe he's available, you know? 5.5 feels like a good number, because you got to think, I mean, people are saying even the Commanders are interested in him at 2, all the way down to, you know, I've seen some legitimate mock drafts that have the Vikings sticking at 11 and still getting JJ McCarthy. So that gives you your average right there. I think the Patriots are going to try to convince everybody in the world that they are happy with either May or McCarthy, just so that they can get the best value. 5.5 is a good number.
He's kind of a wild card. It's really interesting because, and we've referenced this already, like he started in this draft conversation back in January, February, right after the national championship game. pretty low in the first round, and somehow he's catapulted into this top 10 conversation. But there are still some doubts, and there's still there's the meme floating around of him and Zach Wilson and how much alike they look. And it's like, well, if they look alike, maybe they play alike. And well, maybe there is some truth to that. I don't know. He handed the ball off a lot at Michigan. We didn't see a whole lot of him passing the ball. I don't know. He's an interesting wild card.
Yeah.
I think the hype behind him has built so much.
All of these guys, all these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Man.
I take the over on that.
So you think it'll be, I don't know what that means. Do you think he'll be drafted after pick 5 or before pick 5?
That's confusing.
So say what you mean.
I'm saying over in terms of he'll be drafted higher than.
Okay. So one of the 4. Oh, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Yes.
Obviously 3, 4, or 5.
Higher meaning the higher draft pick. That's
okay.
what I
got
mean.
Got it. Okay. I mean, I can't argue with that. I don't think anybody can.
If he falls to 5, the Chargers have the 5th pick right now.
Yeah.
And
they're not picking a quarterback, but
their coach is Jim Harbaugh.
They're not picking. They can't pick a quarterback because of the financial obligation to Herbert, who, by the way, is actually a good quarterback.
He is a good quarterback, but I mean, maybe their GM has schemed something and he's crunched the numbers and he's figured out a way. Hey, we'll move on from what we have now and we'll get this new guy in. You already worked with him before, and
it's a franchise crippling cap hit to get rid of Justin Herbert. I think it's around what is it?
It's a lot. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but I don't know.
I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. You can't predict fully anything. Anything could happen. It would be the news story of the month of the offseason for the NFL if McCarthy went to the Chargers, if they drafted him.
Well, I mean, truth be told, the Bears, the Commanders, the Patriots, all of them could surprise everybody and go after him too. Maybe the Bears have some sense knocked into them and they realize that Caleb Williams isn't the guy. And they're like, actually, this guy just won a national championship. He was really darn good. He's got everything we need. Maybe he's the route we go instead of the flashy number 1 pick guy that we've tried to go after the past couple of drafts.
Yeah. Or and this is conspiracy theory zone right here, but if you're sitting here thinking oh man, Penix is a generational talent and we have to get him at all costs, you know what? We should start leaking to the media hey, we really like JJ McCarthy, to really boost him up from a 2nd rounder all the way to a top 5 pick. That's, you never know, and you can't rule anything out, and we will never know. All we'll know is who is picked where.
Yep.
And after a few years, we'll know who is good.
It's all speculation until about 48 hours from now, and then we will find out.
I would say he will be drafted 5th or better. So I agree with you. So I think that would be the under.
I said the
over. I don't know. I think we're communicating what we think. It will be 5 or better.
In terms of betting language, and I don't gamble. You do
a little bit.
I don't at all. I think in terms of the gambling language, we would take the under because it would be the lower number. But in terms of draft language, we would take the higher because he would be drafted higher, and that's where I was coming from. So I will take the higher draft position. I think he will be drafted 5 or better.
Got it. And that's what I'm going to type in our little
you're keeping
outline
track
here. Yeah, because next week I do want to come back and say, hey, quick, let's go over our bets for what happened in the first round.
So you got one more on the list here, and this one's a little closer to home here.
Yeah.
Cooper DeJean, cornerback, Iowa Hawkeyes.
He did not waive the fair catch. It was not a fair catch.
I think he did.
It was not a fair catch.
I think he did.
It was plain as day, not a fair catch. He was waving off his teammates. It was not a fair catch. You will never, ever get me to think otherwise. I promise you that. Like, you could convince me the Vikings are actually wearing blue this whole time before you could convince me he was waving a fair catch.
This is good because I'm pretty sure at some point we were accused of always agreeing with each other.
No, yeah.
And I'm going to disagree with you pretty hardcore here because I watched the footage and I watched that replay several times and I saw the hand go up and around indicating the fair catch.
Evan, can you just really quick remind me what state you were born in?
I was born in Minnesota.
Thank you. You're obviously going to say that he was waving the fair catch because they were
playing the Gophers.
Yeah.
That was a huge moment for the Gophers this year.
PJ Fleck and the Gophers need a huge moment just to beat anybody. So I guess the Ghosts can have that. They already took it, but he was not waving for a fair catch.
I disagree.
And you're allowed to, and I love you. You're one of my closest friends. This will not end our friendship.
Anyways,
you're wrong.
Cooper DeJean, I still think he's a good player. I still think he's the salt of the earth. I've never heard a bad thing about him.
Sure.
Currently, DraftKings has him at 22.5.
Who has the 22nd pick? Do you know? Did you have it up?
22nd in be the Eagles.
Okay, who has the 23rd? Because that's kind of what the NFL is saying,
Who
right?
has the 23rd?
Dang it! Currently, it's the Vikings.
Currently, we do.
So it could be the Patriots, could be the Chargers.
Yeah,
could be the Vikings.
Sticking at 23.
The Jinx. Man, honestly, I would like him as a Viking. The Vikings need some help. They've always needed help in the defensive backfield. I think I've heard DeJean might end up being more of a safety than a cornerback. I don't know if that's just the whole he's white thing. I don't really know.
Could he be the next Harrison Smith?
Can you imagine just handing it off? I think we already have the handoff player. We have Josh Metellus and Cam Bynum. Like, there's a couple of players that Harrison is grooming.
Metellus is definitely the Swiss Army knife guy that Harrison Smith has been.
And we've spoken the praises of Metellus so much.
Yes.
Hey, Josh Metellus, come on our show. We love you. You're welcome, just like Harrison.
Open invite to anybody.
Again, just to throw it out there. But yeah, man, that's kind of funny that the Vikings have the 23rd pick, and that would technically be right where DraftKings is saying he's about looking to go. So I don't know. That's tough too. I think he'll be in the 20s, with the caveat of maybe he's a highly coveted. I don't know that he is, but maybe he's a highly coveted player that somebody gets him in the teens, knowing they're assuming it's going to be in the 20s. He could also be a candidate for that sneaky 32nd overall pick to be traded up for to grab him if he's still there.
I was just thinking about that.
You know what? Just for the sake of it, I'm going to say the under, meaning that he will be drafted after the 22nd pick. So 23 or beyond.
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to take the over. I think he drafts higher than 22. I think he's 22 or better.
Okay.
Which excludes the Vikings currently. I think he's a good enough player. I think he is that Harrison Smith kind of guy, and the Hawkeyes used him in more ways than just cornerback.
I think he
was the return man. He was
absolutely.
I think he was the. I don't know if he was for sure. But I would have to imagine he was the mic on defense. He was the guy with the headset.
Maybe. I don't know. Usually that's your linebacker. And I say I'm an Iowa fan. I should know this better, but I'd almost be surprised. But he's definitely one that could be.
He was
a leader on the defense.
On the defense, regardless of whether or not he actually had the headset in his helmet or not. So, yeah, I like Cooper DeJean going higher than 22.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
All right.
It'll be interesting.
So, yeah, next week we will come back to all of these and kind of rehash what we thought, what we bet, and what actually happened. Hey, friend of the show, Forrest, you can start listening again.
It's a long segment.
Yeah,
you're gonna miss out on most of the episode.
Yeah, that's okay. So, question for you. We have our outline here. kind of getting long in the tooth a little bit. So what do you think? We have one more segment listed with a couple of topics. What do you think? Should we scrap that all together? Do we just use one topic? Are we keeping going? Is this an F-it episode where we see how long it takes?
I do have to edit after this.
True.
And
that being said,
early bedtime.
So it's two kind of trivia type questions, and I think we could do it quickly.
I think we can do
both of them quickly.
Yeah. I think I can do the second one.
Our
pretty
alma
easily.
mater.
Yes.
Okay.
But I want you to do the first one.
All right.
So the first one that you've got listed here.
We need some like music here, like some
suspense building kind of Jeopardy music. I'll throw that in the post production.
Yeah, I'll hold you to it.
All right. The last 3 first round quarterbacks for each NFC North team.
Okay, so pretty specific here.
I jotted down a start of some notes here, but I ran out of ideas pretty quickly, which is why I'm going to have you do this, not me.
All right. So, I could almost say the year, and that might help me as well. I will go the other 3 teams, and I'll finish off with the Vikings.
Okay.
I'm a little confident. I don't know everybody. Okay, so I'll start with the Bears. Their last first-round quarterback, Justin Fields.
Yep.
Before that, it was famously they really fired a lot of people because they drafted Mitch Trubisky.
Mitchell.
And before that, we were in high school, and it was good old Rex Grossman.
Mm-hmm. The Bears are easy because they typically find themselves in...
I mean, every team has their stages.
Yep.
All right, so next up, and if you want, I think we have them listed somewhere. Next up, we'll go with the Lions. So most recently, currently their current starting quarterback is a first-round quarterback, but they didn't draft him.
Not drafted by the Lions.
Jared Goff was first overall to the Rams a handful of years ago.
Yep.
So their most recent first-round quarterback, was it Stafford? It had to have been. He was there forever.
Yep, 09.
Before that, man, I don't know. It for some reason like Kelly Holcomb, but he didn't play for the Lions. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know the other 2. They've been very bad for very long, but for a while they had a good stretch with Matt Stafford that they didn't have to pick a quarterback.
So I think the second one you can get, we were in middle school. His name is recognizable.
Yeah, and I can almost, it's on the tip of my tongue. He wore like what number? It was either like number 3 or number 14 or something like that. 14 is why I think Kelly Holcomb, but it's not him. That's not right.
He was 3, wasn't he?
3. Oh man, it's so close. I can almost see it.
Yeah, he wore number 3.
Man, it's one of those I won't be able to think of it, but the second I hear it, it's gonna be like, dang it, I knew that.
You ready?
Are you gonna tell me?
You want it?
Yeah.
Joey Harrington.
Dang it, Harrington. Dang it. Okay, I'm really upset with myself.
And I don't know that I could ever get the third one.
Is it like
here.
one of those like 80s or earlier type guys?
This was the year we were born, or I was born.
Yeah, I never in a million years would I get that.
Andre Ware.
Oh, yeah. I
1990.
All right, so I missed 2 so far. That's okay. For the Packers, obviously got Jordan Love.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers. And then I know Favre was a Falcon when he was drafted. I mean, it's not Bart Starr, is it? Like,
no.
I couldn't.
It's not that far back.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Rich Campbell in 1981.
You could have given me a million guesses.
Nope. Yeah, I would have been in the same boat. I have the information in front of me.
All right, Vikings. We're a Vikings podcast. Take my Vikings fan card if I get this wrong. Most recent, Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep.
2014 or something.
Yep.
And then before that, very quickly before that was Christian Ponder. Yep. 2011, good old lockout season.
Yep.
They tried the bridge quarterback thing with him and Donovan McNabb, but it didn't work. And before Ponder, I think the other first-round quarterback, we have his signature and jersey right behind me.
And that's his rookie card.
Yeah,
right
good
there.
old Dante Culpepper. Did
Dante.
he wear... He wore number 12. Yeah, as
Yep.
a rookie. Or
As
at
a
least
rookie.
to start off with. I don't know when he switched.
So in this card, in the display case here, he's wearing number 12. That's his rookie card. And then over here, we've got the signed jersey, number 11.
Yeah.
So, Dante Culpepper.
Thank you to Big Top Ventures, by the way, for that Culpepper jersey.
That's a sweet addition to the Skol Cave.
Yeah.
For sure. I would have maybe gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would have gotten 8 of those.
Okay.
You got a few more than I did.
Well,
I think you got 10.
What did I miss? 3 out of 12?
You got all of the Bears.
I missed 2 of the Lions
2
and 1
of
of
the
the
Lions,
Packers.
1 of the Packers.
Yeah.
So
I'm okay with that. As a early 90s kid, fan of the Vikings, I'm okay with missing 3 of 12 NFC North quarterbacks. All right, man. UNI famously attended the University of Northern Iowa.
UNI attended UNI.
There's a Rocket Summer song called You and I think I don't know. Anyways, I digress. The Panthers of UNI were a small school. FBS or FCS. FCS, not FBS.
FCS, yes.
Yeah, division. It's technically now Division 1, but it's like Division 1A. Not a lot of highly touted players, football players, come out of our alma mater. Sometimes, every once in a while, they get one. I want you to name. There's a clear-cut top 3, and this isn't necessarily like the highest drafted players out of UNI because there's only one first-round pick, and that's kind of an asterisk to this question that I'm going to ask. So the top 3 drafted.
So like
Not even drafted. So the top 3 NFL players to come from the University of Northern Iowa.
the most successful NFL players
Yes.
to have played at Northern Iowa.
And then I will add a 4th name as a caveat to say who is the only first round pick from UNI.
I don't know if I can get that 3rd one, but I'm
All right.
pretty confident I can get arguably the top 3 NFL players to come out of UNI.
All right, so let's hear it.
The first one is pretty obvious. If you've followed his story at all, there's a major motion picture.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either, but a fictionalized version of his story going from Hy-Vee grocery bagger to NFL superstar Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner.
Won a Super Bowl. Won a few Super Bowls, actually.
And a couple MVPs. I think he only won 1 Super Bowl. He led 2 different teams, to a total of 3 Super Bowls in his career. And he won the first one, lost the second one as a Ram to the Patriots, and then lost the third one as a Cardinal
You're right.
to the Steelers.
For some reason, I thought he won one with the Cardinals, but you're right. He only won that one with the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest show on turf.
Yep.
His
rookie NFL. No, not even his rookie year. It was his second season as an NFL player.
It was that last second. The Titans were just short of getting it across the goal line, and the Rams pulled it out.
Ricky Prohl, father of former Viking, current American Idol contestant
Blake Prohl.
Mm-hmm. He caught a touchdown, I believe, in that Super Bowl with the Rams.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's a whole little shrine, so to speak, to Kurt Warner in the Unidome now, the home stadium of the UNI Panthers. So he's arguably the greatest NFL player to come out of.
I don't think it's arguably. It's
not
he
arguable.
is a clear cut.
He is, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you win a Super Bowl, it's pretty obvious.
And multiple MVPs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great player, great guy. He actually kind of hails from around this area, or at least has family around our area of Iowa. So that's kind of cool too. But, Yep. Kurt Warner's number 1.
Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Famer.
NFL Hall of Famer.
Has to be said.
Yep. You just keep adding stuff. I mean, he's a great guy for sure. Number 2. So this is a fun story. I actually have newspaper proof that I ran against this guy in high school track, and I ran faster than him. It's my only claim to fame.
Okay.
I have proof. I can show you.
Let's see it. We gotta Instagram post this out.
I'll post it out. I'll send you the picture.
Yeah.
Number 2 would be David Johnson.
Okay. I'm going to argue with the order, but he's on the list.
David Johnson. Yeah. So I suppose my list is unofficially
sure. Yeah.
in order.
Yeah.
But David Johnson is the next guy that comes to mind. Clinton High School graduate, which is only about 45 minutes away from where we are currently in the Quad Cities. I ran track against him in high school. And I have a newspaper clipping, and I have a picture of it somewhere, and I will send it to you. And you have
we gotta post that.
My
out.
full permission to post it out that I ran faster than David Johnson.
David Johnson
in a 400-meter dash.
Yep. There was one season he was the clear cut. Every fantasy draft, he was without question the first overall pick in every fantasy draft. His rookie year, he did pretty well as a 3rd-round pick. Few hundred rushing yards, few hundred receiving yards. I think like 12 touchdowns total. His second season, he exploded. Yep. He had almost 1,000 receiving yards, 800 and some as a running back, and then obviously like 1,200 plus rushing yards. He was the next big thing. For a minute, everybody was saying he's the best running back in the NFL. He was phenomenal. And then the year after that, he had like a wrist injury. He only played in one game that next year and never really came back after that. But man, he was exciting for a year and a half or so.
He was in his prime when we were in college, and we got to watch him play in college many, many times. And he was fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
he could have played at bigger schools. I don't know. Yes. I think maybe just the area we all grew up in, the general area, not too highly touted, but as far as being recruited. But yeah, he exploded in college and then had some magical time in the NFL. Kind of petered out, which is sad to see. But yeah, definitely in this top 3.
And I think he's an overall really, really good guy.
Oh yeah.
Open invitation,
David Johnson, come on, man.
If you want to come on the Skol Hop,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah.
We'll have you.
Absolutely. That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be super cool. And I mean, if you're ever in the Clinton area, you're only a short ways away from the Quad Cities. So hit us up. We'll hook you up.
Yeah.
We got a microphone for you.
Yeah, anytime.
So number 3, and maybe this would be your number 2.
Absolutely my number 2.
This was before our time, but this man's legacy goes far beyond his playing days. In fact, I mentioned to you before we started recording, he's back in the Cedar Falls area. He's coaching as a member of the UNI football coaching staff, and his daughter is making a name for herself in high school track in the state of Iowa with Cedar Falls High School. This would be Bryce Pop.
Bryce Pop. He did get drafted by the bad guys. He was a Packer for a few years.
Yes.
But after his rookie contract, he signed with the Buffalo Bills. And his first year with them, he earned AP NFL Defensive Player of the Year, which is in a league, maybe not as much back then in 95, but a league that favors the NFL MVP to be a quarterback or at least an offensive player. That Defensive Player of the Year is the MVP of defense. So that's a very highly touted award. And if not for Kurt Warner, having a player who won NFL Defensive Player of the Year he's instantly your best player in program history. And
I remember being a student at UNI, seeing more hype around Bryce Pop around the Unidome area, the athletics area, than I did Kurt Warner. Yeah. I feel like Kurt Warner's rise to fame didn't really solidify itself until we were graduated and gone.
Yeah,
from
well,
UNI.
It would have been like the year before we started college when he went to the Super Bowl with the Cardinals. And I think Kurt Warner retired from the NFL while mid-college years for us. And I remember thinking at the time, I think it's definitely changed now, Kurt Warner definitely felt distant from UNI.
Yes.
There was like one little area in like the main trophy case that listed out his accolades and stuff. But other than that, you never heard like, oh, Kurt Warner's going to be at this event or anything like that. It just, he seemed distant, and maybe I just read that wrong. Maybe he has been a full supporter of our school his entire life. I don't know. But it definitely feels different now. He definitely seems more open and included now in the school.
I think his relationship with the school has changed
Yeah.
in the last decade and a half or so.
But to that point, and I think what you're trying to get at, Bryce Pop was definitely more prevalent.
Celebrated at our school.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So
he did end his career with the Vikings in the year 2000. He played with the Vikings, which is kind of interesting.
I didn't know that.
Bryce Pop, you ever want to come on the school?
Hey, open invitation.
Open invitation.
I will always think of Bryce Pop in a Bills uniform.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and that was his best year. He had
Yep.
like 17 sacks, a few interceptions. Obviously, NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He didn't have a super long career. I think 10 years, which is actually pretty long for NFL players. But he definitely flashed and made a difference in the league and touted that UNI Panther name.
So all of this begs the question. I haven't researched this one iota, so I have no idea. But
Okay.
are there any UNI players
In the upcoming draft?
making a name for themselves, possibly could make their way into an NFL roster?
There is one guy who
I feel like there was one. I just can't remember his name, and I don't remember his position.
he's a defensive lineman, and I feel really bad that I don't know his name off the top of my head. Dang.
While you're working on that, just a quick update, because I know you've been following this since before we started recording. The Timberwolves beat the Suns.
They did, yeah. They're 2-0 in the playoffs. I'm a famous fair weather other Minnesota sports team fan. So yeah, really excited. This is definitely the best Timberwolves season in a long time.
Yes, for
Probably
sure.
in our lifetime.
Yep. Not in our lifetime. I mean, you got to think back to the Kevin Garnett days. The frustrating part was in those days, late 90s, early 2000s, they were just always getting beat by the Lakers in the first round because it was Kobe and Shaq.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay, I found it. And I'm really sorry to Christian Boyd, current UNI Panther.
yeah, that's his name.
Or, NFL draft prospect. What are they saying? I think he's one of those that's going to go relatively early-ish in the draft. I think they're thinking the first couple of rounds. Probably not a first-round pick, but second or third for sure, which is exciting. Every once in a while you see a UNI Panther be touted as a potential NFL player.
And they're, well coached. They're fairly competitive. They're usually at the top of the Missouri Valley Conference or near the top, behind South Dakota State, North Dakota State. And so, yeah, you got to think that there are some UNI players out there that are grabbing some team's attention in the draft, and maybe more than just Christian Boyd.
And I think this conversation would be understated if we didn't mention LJ Fort's name. He was a fellow classmate at the university of ours. I don't think either of us really ever had a class with him, but he attended the university when we did. Yep. And he played in the NFL up until a couple of seasons ago.
He was a Steeler for a while.
I mean, he bounced around a little bit. He was a Steeler. I think the Steelers, and when did he end his career? The Ravens were the teams that he had the most success with. We could probably look that up too. And I know for a minute he's a linebacker, but he kind of bounced around. At one point, he tried to make a team as a fullback, I think with the Seahawks. But he made some starts with the Steelers, made some starts with the Ravens. He was one of those, maybe you could define him as a bridge type player, starter level, unless there was somebody better. But he was still pretty good. I think his first game in the NFL, he intercepted Michael Vick when LJ was a member of the Browns, which is pretty exciting to say. Like I'm sure if it was me, I would still, for the rest of my life be like, hey, one of my first first games ever, I intercepted Michael Vick. Like, he did bounce around a little bit, but he had a couple of decent stints with teams. And I think injury is ultimately what ended his career. But yeah, you've got his stats up here.
He's definitely an honorable mention in terms of that top.
Oh,
group.
Absolutely. And maybe outside of Kurt Warner and Bryce Pop, I mean, he may have ended up playing more games than David Johnson.
91 total career games, and 91 started. So he was never a fill-in. He was always a starter. Every game he played, he started.
That's crazy. Yeah,
in the league.
That's awesome.
The Browns, the Bengals, the Steelers for 3 seasons, and the Ravens for 2 seasons.
And I know he had a few non-regular season stints with other teams. I think he was with the Patriots for a minute.
As a practice squad player.
The Broncos, the Seahawks. Yeah,
Seahawks, Broncos. Yep, you are correct.
So yeah, that LJ Fort is always someone I was aware of when he was playing. And it was fun to know that somebody my age from my college was still playing the NFL. It was fun to watch that.
Definitely had like less than 6 degrees of separation from
absolutely.
LJ Fort, for sure. I have less than 6 degrees separation from David Johnson too. So it's kind of fun to think about. But
man, that'd be cool to have David on the pod. That'd be awesome. Well, we could probably pull some.
Oh, I could pull some strings.
Let's do that. I think
know some people.
We can be unashamed.
Oh yeah,
we're fellow UNI Panthers.
Yeah,
we're nobodies. But hey, really quick, can you think of who the only first round pick for the Panthers, the UNI Panthers, has been? It's recent, like within the last 3 drafts.
Within the last 3 drafts, so within the last 3 years, I feel like I'm going to be really, really. I'm gonna feel dumb for not knowing this.
No, because he's not like a flashy position. It's not like quarterback or anything.
Was it can you give me offense, defense, special teams?
Offense.
Offensive lineman?
Offensive lineman.
I feel like I can picture him.
Even if you could only name the team that he was drafted to.
I don't even know if I could do that. But once you say it, I'm going to be like, of course.
Trevor Penning.
Of course.
To the Saints.
Yeah, that does make sense. I remember that name now.
I believe that
Is he still there?
He is. I believe he was drafted in 2022. So not even, 2 drafts ago. I know he's had some injury and performance a little bit has been an issue. He is not a current starter, but he's still really young and has a lot of potential, and a first-round pick from our college, which has literally never happened outside of him before. So
hey, that's something to write home about.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
Sure. And I remember him playing for UNI. I mean, I've followed UNI sports, football and basketball mostly, since graduation, and yeah, UNI is always in the mix in the conference. Yeah. And then they typically find themselves, at least in football and men's basketball, they find themselves in the postseason, and then they typically make an exit at some point, which is unfortunate. But yeah, definitely remember Trevor Penning playing on some of those UNI teams in the past, and yeah. Hopefully he can keep going. Yeah.
Well,
maybe he'll get traded to the Vikings. That'd be kind of
fun. The Vikings apparently have yet to fill their guard needs yet, unless
Dalton Reisner's been just sitting there waiting.
Yeah, unless Blake Brandel turns out to be a pretty decent starter, or they do something in the draft. I don't know.
Well, regardless of what we've talked about, we will have to settle for whatever happens in not that long from now.
Yeah, we can only spectate.
And by the time we record next, we'll have a whole lot more information, and we'll know a lot more about who the Vikings have picked, what the trajectory of the franchise looks like kind of from here on out. We're going to have a lot to talk about in a week. We had a lot to talk about tonight. And we've been talking about all this stuff for months, it seems like. So it'll be nice to have some news. It'll be nice to be able to react to some of the things rather than just continue to speculate and speculate and speculate. But I'm excited. It's going to be good.
I can't wait. I'm pumped. I can't think of the words to say how excited I am for the draft.
Here's my question for you. Are you going to go to the store and get a reclaimed rails blood orange wheat for draft night?
This was delicious. You can tell if you're watching, my glass is empty.
And mine is nearly empty.
This was a really good beer. I liked it a lot. Very, I think, refreshing. If I could only use one word to describe it, refreshing is that word. What is it? 6.4%. So I was going to guess it was even less just because of the light flavor, like the refreshing and light flavor. Yeah. But 6.4, this thing's holding its own. It's a summertime beer. This is delicious. I love it a lot.
This is like hang out on the dock at the end of a day of like being out in the boat, fishing or whatever, tubing, skiing.
I could see myself mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
And coming inside and cooling off with one of these.
Sitting on the back porch.
Yeah.
With one of these.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of sitting on the back porch, we're about to, within the next few weeks, do that and tap the Skol hot beer.
That's right. So, yeah. We'll film some of that. And we'll have some footage of that. And we're inviting some of our inner circle to that, which we're excited about. And, yeah, we'll release a more complete video related to the Skol hot beer that we brewed. I think I got the bottle here.
Oh, yeah. We got a few. Yep. Hoppy American Ale.
So, still has a little bit of liquid in the bottom.
Don't do it. It's been a few weeks there, Ev.
Definitely won't do that. But, yeah, we're excited for that, and we're excited to share that with the world, and hopefully it's not the only time that we brew some beer.
Oh, it won't be. I promise you that. Maybe we can have some variations, but yeah. All right, man. Where can people find us?
Everywhere. Everywhere. Just Google us, The Skol Hop. You're going to find us.
Yeah.
We've got a website. We've got Facebook. We've got Twitter. We've got pretty much any other social media known to man. We're pretty active on Twitter. I know you work really hard to keep our interactions up on Twitter.
Yeah,
mostly.
Give us a follow everywhere. I mean, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
TikTok,
Reddit, TikTok. Yeah,
Reddit. Yep. Just find us, and if you interact with us, we can pretty much guarantee that we will interact back with you.
Absolutely.
So, hit us up and start a conversation. Let's see where this goes. We love talking about beer. We love talking about the Vikings. We love talking about football in general. So, yeah, we would be happy to engage in any sort of conversation that you might want to engage with us in. So,
absolutely.
Find us and hit us up. I enjoyed this beer a lot. Obviously, you did too because yours is gone. I have just a little bit left. I was saving some for a
we can still do the Skol.
But would you get this again?
Oh, 100%. We just hashed all that out. Yeah,
I know you did. I'm just reaffirming.
Yes. And based off of this, I would get some more reclaimed rails. Like,
there were a few other
other
cans on the shelf at UNI. So not UNI, Hy-Vee. I don't know why I said UNI.
This is such a good beer that you thought that we were back in college. All right, man. We hashed it all out. We got some rehashing topics to talk about next week after the first round, after the whole draft, really. Can't wait.
I'm excited.
Till next time.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Skol.